Hi, it's Tanny the Canadian Stamper, and I'm going to show you the best way, I think, to use the Charming Sentiments bundle that we used in the Birthday Blitz class, but I hope to release this also out to the YouTube world for others to benefit from it as well. So I have a little list here of all the things that I'm going to go over, and then we're going to do some stamping and some die cutting. So I'll just do an overview of the product. So Charming Sentiments stamp set, this is, what are we now? We're in March 2023, and this is in the annual catalog, Stampin' Up catalog. And this tells us here that this stamp set was designed by Lisa Curcio, who is a $1 million sales achiever. So we know this also from the $1 million logo down here. And on Lisa's Stamp Studio, that's her business name, she's a US demonstrator, there is a download that looks like this. It's a free download, and she's asked that it not be reproduced or sold. So if you're interested in this, then I encourage you to go to her website and do the free download. You can search her website for the stamp set name, and then you can get this, and there's instructions on how to use it, and so I'll just leave that with you if that's what you decide to do. So an overview of the stamp set is that it's 17 stamps. They are photopolymer stamps. I'm going to tell you what this is about later, and I have on purpose left it on the acetate sheet, and I'll tell you why later. And then we have the dies. So there are 30 dies in this set. So there's 2 sheets. And I'm gonna show you 2 things. So there's our 2 sheets of dies. And you have both sentiments, and then there's also some little bits and pieces that you can pop out. Where's a pen? So this is a bow. This is the bottom and the top of a bow. A heart, and then it's got 2 pieces of the heart. Same thing with the star. This is a candle. This is the base of the candle. So perhaps you could do like a black underneath and then a color on top, or a white and then black, or any type of color combination. And then you might cut the, not flint, but the light, the candle piece with foil paper, or you could heat emboss it. And then these pieces here create, this could be like a shooting star. This is like the jet stream from the shooting star. Or you could put these at the base of the, like put the star here and have cutouts for that. And then this long slim piece here, I haven't really used because you'll see am I in camera? Yes. The little tiny dots, they're just so teeny tiny. So we made a shaker card in the Birthday Blitz class, and to be honest with you, it was just, they were so tiny, I didn't even use them because, yeah, so perhaps I'm not using that correctly, but yeah, so that's that. Now, here's a tip. So if you have a printer at home, you could, what I do with all of my dies is, before I take them off of the sheet at all, I photocopy them on just copy paper and then cut these down, and they live inside the plastic case with my dies so that I know if one's missing. I'm not sure how else you would do it if you don't have a printer, but if you do, then that might be an option for you. Okay, so that's the overview for us. And now, what else do I have to tell you about? So this is our piercing mat, and because it's a photopolymer stamp set, this is a good thing to have because it has I call it the squishiness built in so that you can get a good impression on your stamp. So let's practice doing some stamping, and let me tell you what these pieces are. Okay, so let's talk about this first. So this is just a little acetate bag. This is the negative space from cutting out. Oh, there's one of the bows, 2 of the bows, just as a sample. So these are the negative spaces from some of the dies that I cut out. And so why I'm keeping this is because when you stamp, which we're gonna stamp here in a minute, and then I'm gonna show you, but when you stamp, let's say this one, you're gonna stamp your greeting on the piece of paper, then you're gonna put the negative space over top, and then you're gonna rest your die in the top piece, and then put it over where your stamped image is, so I'm gonna show you how to do that. It helps line it up. The other thing you wanna have on hand is, this is Post-it note tape. Washi tape is good, Post-it notes are fine too. Some of the dies can be quite small for the sentiments, like this one for example. They can be quite small, and you don't wanna lose track of them. So we'll go ahead and keep this one out and use that as our sample. So we're gonna stamp two different ways. Let me show you what this one looks like. There's this one. So there's that covering there. Then you would pop this over and cut it out. You don't have to, just an idea for you. So I'm leaving this in the acetate for a couple of reasons. One is because I can use this as a background stamp. And in our Birthday Blitz class, we used this, we used the whole sheet to make the background image for our shaker card. So I'm just lining up. So underneath here, this is the new stamp case design with Stampin' Up. So typically you would pull off your stamps and you would put them there. And then if one's missing, you know that you have a job to find it. So right now I'm lining up sort of the acetate so that I can put this one back down where it is. You don't have to leave it on here. I'm choosing to leave it on here because I want to use it as one, like to make a background, a texture background. You could even heat emboss. But then we're also going to, do I have a sheet that's perfectly the size? I think I do. We're gonna get, well, maybe not. You could do, I should have cut a whole piece, but I didn't. You get the idea though. Let's stamp and then you'll get the idea. So you could cut, I'm just gonna use Memento Tuxedo Black. How big is this? If we were gonna stamp the whole sheet, it is probably 9.5 by 4.5 is the sheet of paper that you want. So we're just gonna ink up some of it. You don't have to keep lining it up, like once they're on, they're on. So the other trick with, I'm gonna hold this up to the camera in a second so you can see, brand new photopolymer stamps, well from Stampin' Up anyways, I don't know about other manufacturers, but the photopolymer stamps being plastic, on some of them there's like a residue on it. This one has been used a lot, so there's more ink coverage, whereas some of these that haven't been used or haven't been used as much, they have, some of the ink is not actually transferring onto the stamp. So that sometimes happens with photopolymer stamps that are brand new. So to get around that, or what you can do, well, you could use the Stamparatus, which is the stamp positioning tool, so that you can just keep stamping over and over again and get a good impression. Or you can take your stamp off of the acetate, and then sometimes I rub it with my hand. Sometimes if I have jeans, I'll just rub it on my jeans, like I'll mount it. Just grab a block. I will put it on the block, and then I will, scuffing up is not the right word, but because don't use like any type of sandpaper, like don't do that. You're just trying to get that very fine layer of residue off of the stamp is where I'm going with that tip. So for this exercise, it's going to be fine though. So I'm just going to put this back. All right, now I'm too busy chatting. Let's go back again. Okay. So the stamp it's nicely separated as far as where the stamps are on the page. So I'm holding this down and then I'm just running my hands over it to get that ink transfer. Now you could do that 9.5 by 4.5, 4.25, whatever the measurement is. Have a whole piece and do the whole sheet. And the reason why you're doing this is because then you can line up and stamp or cut multiple sentiments all at once. So once you think you've got good coverage there, you can lift it up and there's your sentiments. Perfect. So this is just the edge of this one here, which is fine. So now we're going to use this. I'm just going to clean this actually. We're going to use that to stamp our next pieces or cut our next pieces. Actually, I'm going to show you another option before we cut that. I have some of the In Color Designer Series paper, and I want to pull out, what is it, Sweet Sorbet, because you can stamp on your Designer Series paper. Maybe polka dots. We'll try both of these. So I have my Sweet Sorbet ink. So you can do this with any paper you would think is not too busy. So I'll just continue to use my, what's this one say? It is Wishing You Everything Wonderful. So I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to ink up my stamp. You wouldn't want to do it with really busy paper. And then we'll chop that out so you can see. It looks a bit busy now, but you just wait. I don't know if you've tried this technique before, but it's fun. It's a fun way to use your Designer Series paper. I think it'll be okay with these lined ones. You could certainly do it in a different color if you wanted it to top, like a coordinating color. All right, so I'm gonna get my mini stamp cut and emboss machine. And we're gonna cut some of these. So let me move all my stuff to the side. We're gonna cut these and I'll show you the other tip. In the package, you can trace your dies in the die package. I have seen folks trace, let me just get my dies so I can show you what I'm talking about. Before you take them, like I've already moved mine and started fussing with them, but before you take them off of here, you could take a pen and draw around to trace the die so that you know where it goes back on the sheet. I'm sure I'm not alone that when you get dies and then you use some and then you can't figure out how they go back on the sheet. So sometimes that's helpful. And then if you traced around them, then you would know where they go. And the download from Lisa Curcio, Lisa's Stamp Studio, the little cheat sheet has on there which sentiment these all go with. So like these ones are quite similar. So then looking at your 17 different stamps, it can get kind of frustrating to figure out what's what. But the download that she's made is quite clever and saves you a bit of headache when trying to figure out what stamp. You could, in this case, not with the mini because it's a bit big. Oh, I'm gonna have to trim this actually. But if I had my big stamp cut and emboss machine, you could certainly line up all of your dies, like stamp a whole piece and then line up all your dies and cut one big massive sheet of sentiments and then tuck them away and have them for when you need a sentiment. You could stamp them on white or stamp them on, just cutting this one out. You could heat emboss a whole sheet and have those ready to go. So you could really just spend an hour stamping and cutting and just get a whole ton of sentiments ready to go. So let's do it this way first, where we're gonna take our die, we're gonna rest it over. Now in the class, there was a few folks, and I'm sure they're not alone because I've done it as well, that really kind of get detailed about really making sure that it stays down and it's perfect. I don't stress about it too much. I'm gonna do the best that I can. I'm gonna line up a few of the bigger loops kind of thing, and then I'm gonna stick this down and I'm gonna run it through. And the reason why I say I don't fuss about it per se is that it's not because I don't care, it's because I want to learn about the die and how the stamp works together. And what I mean by that is, in this case, I've left, I need a very fine tip. I have left, like you can see the red here and you can see the red here. Now, when I take this off, if I've not cut properly, then I know for next time I need to either move it this way or move it that way or move it up or move it down. Like I'm kind of making a bit of a mental note as to where those things are. And then the more you use it and you go, you'll know that the die is positioned, you need to position it in such a way, right? So let's see how we did. Yeah, that's good. So see how this side has quite a bit of space. This side, not as much space, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good in comparison to, say, this one, where my I, or the top of my H, is just a little bit off. But I don't know, would you even have noticed if I didn't point that out? I don't know. And this looks like it's a bit tall, and this is a bit short, so you could have just adjusted slightly. So that's what I mean about not fussing about it. So let's do another one. So here's the same sentiment, and if you're sort of still not quite sure or you want to try this, you can. This is the negative space from cutting this previously, and I'm gonna line it up over the stamp. I'm holding the white piece to the red piece with my left hand, and I'm setting this, it's like in there. It's kind of locked in a little bit. So this, my red is more into the die than it was before. In this one, I didn't have this much red here, and I can see that my H is a bit different. So let's just try it. Let's just see how we go. The purpose of this white piece is just to try to help you line up the sentiment. That's all. A little more confident in how you're positioning your die. The confidence, I should say. All right, so let's see how we go. Just gonna pop this right out the back. Let's get both of these together. So I'm a little off on this one. See how it sort of cut the bottom of my letters a little bit? I would still use this for sure, but I'm not gonna keep this white piece. I'm not gonna keep this, I'm not gonna keep this one, but this one is this one, and I'm happy with this one. I'm not so happy with this one, and these are my two culprits that created this one. So I'm not keeping these. You know what I mean? But I think it's still fine, and it looks cute on the polka dots actually. I think I might use a different color, maybe some, not Melon Mambo, but Mary Merlot, something a bit deeper. All right, let's cut out the white one. So let's try our trick again. The other one that worked, and see how we go. So I'm holding the red down again with my left hand, and I'm putting this over. I think that looks good. Let's see how we go. The sentiments in this set, I really like. I think they're cute sentiments, and they cover a lot of occasions. And I also think having a whole bunch of them stamped, cut, ready to rock and roll is appealing as well. There. I think we did good with that one. So I am going to be keeping this white or this red piece for sure. So there's that one on the black. What else can I tell you about this? I think that's about it. Let's cut one more. Everything will be okay. So here's where we get into this sort of interesting space where, I just want to read my notes, where I find it challenging to figure out which die is which, like what goes with everything will be okay. I have no idea. Maybe this one. So let's bring in our download, and I'm looking here just for you, good luck. So it's not that page. And I'm looking for the sentiment Beyond Grateful. That's the one I was going to use. So here's Everything Will Be Okay, which is going to be this one here. So this page is this. Hold on, let me just put this back. So this download is handy in that this page is this page, and I know Everything Will Be Okay, so I know this is the die I'm looking for here. So that's helpful. So let's line this one up and see how we go. So if you had the big shot, if you had your big shot, and let's just say, for example, you had that whole sheet of paper, let's just say this is a really big piece, you could take a whole bunch of the dies and a whole lot of washi tape and whatnot. Make sure you have flat plates. If your plates are bowed like this, then it's gonna be a little more challenging for anybody to get things lined up. So you wanna make sure to have flat plates. So I think I'm good with that, and I'm gonna put that down. So then I could add in, well, let's just do it. Let's just not talk about it, let's just do it. I think this is Faith Over Fear. No. See, I don't know. Where's my cheat sheet? I need Faith Over Fear is this one. Oh, it might be a bit tight. Haha, it's perfect. They sit perfectly because I think it's because I left them on the acetate sheet. Where's my Post-it note tape? And let's do Good Luck while we're here, which is this one. Ooh, look at that funky die. What's this one? Oh, it cuts out in between. Oh, this one will be interesting. Let's see. My mini is a little tight, but I haven't used Good Luck yet, so. Is that right? It doesn't seem right. Oh, am I backwards? I'm backwards. There we go, that's better. So again, I'm just kind of eyeballing here, here, and here for me. You could probably get your head right over it, but I got a camera in my way, so I'm not gonna do that. Let's see how we do. When you're working with your die cutting machine, just as a sidebar, not related to the stamp set, so see how I've gone through this way? I'm taking this off and I'm leaving it on this side of my machine. I'm gonna reload and I'm gonna go back this way. And you go this and this and this and this. If I was to pick this up and reset and bring it back over here and go through it again, my plates are gonna warp faster. The plates are likely going to warp either way, but putting it even through each time helps. And the other thing that helps is you have a bottom plate and you have a top plate, and keeping them as is, like these plates are what they are as far as top and bottom. But as from what I understand is that sometimes You can rotate these after a certain amount of time. Set yourself a timer once a month, depending how often you use your machine, and separate them top to bottom. They will both warp, but the bottom one will always be a little more flat. So that's what I do with mine, and it seems to work okay. And I get a little more life out of my plates. If you're watching this on YouTube later and you have a different tip, or perhaps I'm misinformed, then please feel free to add a comment with some tips that might help other folks who are going to watch this later on, as far as use of the machine and maybe what has worked for you. All right, let's see how we did. So there's good luck. So I'm going to keep this negative space because I'm happy with the spacing. Faith over fear. I think that one's pretty good. I could have come to the right a little bit, but I think it's pretty bang on. And there's, whoops, everything will be okay. So there's our different pieces. It's super cool to just have now. I've got 3 of these ready to roll, and I've got a few more of these. Well, this one anyway is chopped up and it's ready to go. And then, for example, if I had traced over my dies, then I would know that this goes here, and then I think this one was going here. This one must go here. But if you had this trace, I mean, I don't know that I would trace these ones, but to trace the sentiments, I think is probably a good idea. I might actually do that, because then once you have those traced, if I'm using this cheat sheet, I'll know where the pieces are. I think in her video, when you chop this, she puts this on a magnetic sheet, and then the dies go on the magnetic sheet on this paper. So it's traced for you, but if you don't, I don't have a big magnetic sheet like that, so that's why I would trace this one to sort of mirror what's happening, and then keep that as a reference. Okay, I think that is all of my tips for using the Charming Sentiments bundle, stamp set, and dies. And I hope that there was some value here in using your stamp set. And thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.